I'm Arthur Mutambara. I'm the Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Zimbabwe. I'm a young global leader from the year 2007. As we embrace the notion of global leadership, we're encouraging young people, we're encouraging those who are successful to do something about their own countries. Why is this important? We're saying that you will never be respected as a citizen of a country until that country has been successful. For myself, I'll never be respected as a Zimbabwean until Zimbabwe has done well as a country. Scaling it up to the continent, you'll never be respected as an African until the African continent has done well as a continent. So that's why I took a major plunge from my life in America at MIT, at NASA, at McKinsey, to go back to Zimbabwe to make a difference, because I felt my own personal brand was a function of the brand of my country. In terms of my background, I did an electrical engineering degree in Zimbabwe. I went to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, did my master's and my doctorate from Oxford, and then went to America where I worked at MIT, NASA, and McKinsey. But I still felt empty because I was so successful, but my country was still in trouble. So I decided to take a plunge and become part of the solution to the problems of my country. Zimbabwe is a country in Southern Africa which used to be under British colonial rule. We went through a protracted armed struggle which led to the independence of Zimbabwe in 1980. After 1980, we went through our post-colonial era, many positive things, education, health, land, but we also now had a new struggle to deepen and broaden reforms, economic reforms, and security sector reforms. Those 7 activities, if we can carry them out, we'll be able to create a new Zimbabwe, which Zimbabwe will allow us to build a peaceful, prosperous, and democratic Zimbabwe. For example, if you look at the national constitution, we're trying to build a constitution that every Zimbabwean can defend. Every Zimbabwean can say, this is my constitution, so that there's no disagreement on the constitution. Like in America, when you say the American constitution, Democrat, Republican, liberal, communist, every American defends the American constitution. So we're trying to do the same in Zimbabwe. But the challenge is that some people look at the constitution and say, how can I win an election through this constitution? Maybe this constitution will cost me an election. So there are some short-term interests that sometimes affect stakeholders when we're working on a common framework. But somehow we are getting there. We are emphasizing those things that unite us and de-emphasizing our differences. But what is important is always to make sure that you keep an open mind to all stakeholders. You facilitate and enable them to come together. That is the role I've been playing in Zimbabwe, to bring the key political players together. ZANU-PF, MDCT, and other players should be facilitated to work together so that we can bring a new culture, a new political system in Zimbabwe, but more importantly, also work on the economy, work on a national economic vision for the country, work on a national brand for the country, work on a national infrastructure master plan. We are very keen to build our politics, to build our economy, and also our society. What is important when you are facilitating negotiations between different protagonists, it is important that you understand that there's good and bad in everyone. There's something positive in everyone. There might be something you don't like in somebody else. What is important is to acknowledge the positive aspects, acknowledge the good, and leverage those so that you can then bring them to the table. And then once you acknowledge their contribution, then you'll be able to nudge them on those areas where you disagree. So the role I've been playing has been that of bringing protagonists together, people with differences together, but you do that by giving credit where credit is due. There is more that unites us than that which divides us. The new dispensation of globalization and the advent of global challenges, you must be able to live with diversity. In fact, you must leverage diversity. Diversity is a virtue. We must believe in what is called the dignity of difference. And so global leadership, globalization, global challenges will require that people who are different work together. People from different countries work together. And so what we're doing in Zimbabwe is an example of how you accommodate and manage differences. It's an example of how you can extract value out of differences, how diversity can be a virtue if it is managed and handled effectively. Taking it globally, we have global challenges: climate change, the environment, poverty, nuclear weapons, the global economic crisis. These problems cannot be solved using national solutions. We need global solutions to global challenges. But nations must work together to provide these solutions. People in the same country with differences must work together to push their nation forward and then work within their regions to proffer regional solutions, to proffer global solutions. And also we must be very clinical in our analysis. For example, we don't believe that we went through a global economic crisis. It was a crisis of values. And if we understand that, we can then proffer solutions around values. So we are saying, in order to address these global challenges, we need to craft and develop a new set of values. We need new systems. We need to build new institutions. And this is what we're trying to do under the Stone Soup Global Leadership. The conditions of our people require major improvements. When you look at education, when you look at health, when you look at the economic conditions, we must work together to improve the conditions of our people. That is what motivates me. I am not successful until my people are successful. I am not a baller, I'm not a superstar until my country is a superstar economy, until my people have high quality education, my people have high quality health. And so we must define collective success is the only measure of success. And go back to the foundation of our traditions, Ubuntu. I am because you are. You are because I am. But more fundamentally, I am because we are. And we are because I am. As we pursue global governance frameworks, as we pursue global values, we must be cognizant of the fact that there are differences between cultures. There's no superior or inferior culture. There are different cultures. We must not be driven by overzealousness around the notion of universal values. We must acknowledge that China, India, Africa, Europe, America, there are certain things that are different in those localities. For example, in our culture, there's no word cousin. Cousin doesn't exist as a word. My uncle's children are my brothers. My auntie's children are my brothers and sisters. So cousin doesn't exist in an African culture. Why? Because there is no emphasis on the nuclear family. The family that is important in Africa is the extended family. Yeah, your aunt is your mother, your uncle is your mother. Those cousins are your brothers and sisters. Now, meaning that certain cultures emphasize certain things, and as we build this global value system, we must be cognizant of the different meanings. So this again is coming from the Ubuntu notion, where the collective, the extended family is more important than the individual. The extended family is more important than the nuclear family. In fact, Ubuntu is a critique of Western individualism. So as Westerners appreciate Ubuntu, they must not do it conveniently. They must also accept that actually it's another way of looking at how to organize society. Whereas in Europe and North America, the emphasis is on individual freedom. In Africa, it is the community. It takes a village to bring up a child. That's an African notion. In terms of religion, for example, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddha, Hindu, that's not enough. They're African religions, which are 2,000 years old. So as we proffer views on spirituality, as we proffer views on values, let us acknowledge our diversity around values, our diversity around religions. And by the way, we are not saying there's a superior religion and an inferior religion. We're not saying there's a superior culture and an inferior culture. They're different cultures, and that difference must be understood as a strength, leveraging our diversity. Diversity as a source of creativity, diversity as a source of strength. That's what we want to do, because sometimes the tendency is that most of the thinking, most of the analysis is done by Eurocentric people, European-driven, American-driven, at the expense of China, at the expense of India, at the expense of Africa. No, unacceptable. So we are here to make sure we give a broader global perspective. The way you manage the differences in culture, the way you succeed in different localities is to make sure you have a notion called glocalization or glocal, meaning globalization rooted in local insights, globalization rooted in local wisdom, meaning if you are a business, if you are an institution going to Zimbabwe, you must employ local Zimbabweans as managers. You must employ local Zimbabweans as consultants. Then they will give you the cultural insights, the local insights, which will make you as a business, as an institution successful, because they'll tell you, for example, in a Zimbabwean Shona culture, young people, young boys and girls who are very respectful don't look elders in the eye. They'll look on the floor. It's not because they're shy or incompetent, it is a cultural behavior. So once you have these insights, once you have these managers who are from the local, once you have these consultants who understand the local culture, you'll be able to leverage your understanding of the culture and you'll be successful. So globalization, global plus local. Globalization rooted in local insights will allow us to be successful as global companies, will allow us to be successful as global institution, because we'll be able to understand what is peculiar to a culture. In fact, we're defining a third type of intelligence. There's IQ, intelligent quotient, which we all know about. There's EQ, which is our emotional intelligence, which you all know about. There's a third type of intelligence, which is required under globalization. It's called cultural intelligence. The ability to move in and out of different political cultures, in and out of different social cultures, in and out of different business cultures, and be able to retain premium results. This is what we need to master so that we can succeed under global leadership. This is why we need stone soup leaders, stone soup leadership, which is rooted in cultural intelligence, which is rooted in globalization, which is rooted in leveraging diversity, which is rooted in understanding that in our differences we are stronger.